everybody. Welcome to the October 3rd Lunch with the Mayor. I'm Ryan Daniel. I'm mayor here in Columbia City, and I wanted to just welcome you if you are tuning in live on Facebook. I wanted to just encourage you if you have questions about things that are happening in the city, questions about things that I bring up and discuss, please go ahead and put them in the chat. If you are watching this on YouTube later, I would ask that you please just shoot me an email, rdaniel@columbiacity.net, or you could call my office at 260-248-5111, and my assistant or I can help you answer any questions you have. Certainly, you can also contact me on my Mayor Ryan L. Daniel Facebook page. You can contact me in private message. So lots of different ways to get a hold of me if you are not necessarily able to talk to me on Facebook or whatever the case is. So I just realized that my date, you can't see. There's my date. Okay, there we go. So anyways, we're going to talk about a bunch of different projects, things that are going on. And so if you have questions of me, go ahead and put them in the chat. There we go. Okay, let's do it. So let's jump right into different project updates. I am, by the way, later going to talk about the budget for 2026 and some of the things that we're planning for, and talk a little bit about the scenario and the situation we're in right now. So just wanted to kind of give you a heads up about that. Stick around for that. We have some calendar items. We're getting into almost holiday season here, so there's some things on there. In any case, we'll jump into project updates. So the first one I'll talk about is our comprehensive plan. You may remember that we are doing an update of our comprehensive plan. In fact, our current comprehensive plan sits right here. This is our current comprehensive plan. You probably maybe have seen it on our website, which is columbiacity.net. We actually have, you can go and look at all of this. We have lots of information on here. You can tell by looking specifically at this page that I have kept a lot of track of it. So our first comprehensive plan was passed in 2015, and kind of the rule of thumb, if you will, or the kind of the rule of or not regulation, but kind of the way in which they suggest keeping these plans fresh is by updating those comprehensive plans about every 10 years. So we're going through a 10-year update of our comprehensive plan. We're hopeful that it'll be done. My guess is it'll probably bleed a little bit into next year, but generally speaking, the majority of it should be done by the end of the year. We've had a lot of public input. Thank you if you gave input either through the link on the website, or if you stopped by the booth during First Friday, and I'm going to say July, or things like that. So we have a steering committee made up of people from across the community and from different sectors and things like that that are giving input as well. And so I say all that to say the steering committee is working diligently to try to hone in on things, and our consultant, which is American Structure Point, they are working on land use maps and some of the recommendations and things to that effect. So we're working really hard to get some of those things accomplished. Okay. Next up, I'll talk about the Dice Store cover replacement. So you may remember I did the 5 Fast Facts where I showed you what the Dice Store cover was. I'm sorry, what we were cleaning out the digester, which has the Dice Store cover that usually caps it. It's like a big bubble type thing that goes over top of the digester. It captures the methane gas and other things from the materials in there, and actually we end up utilizing that gas to heat some of our buildings and to actually heat up some of the sludge and to process that. So we actually kind of do a recycling thing there in a lot of ways. I say all that to say that the Dice Store cover was up for replacement. It actually was probably a couple years past replacement, what they suggested, but we were able to kind of milk it along a little bit. And so that project is coming along pretty well. If you've been down in that area recently, you know that there's a bit of a smell at times where because the cap isn't on top of it, that smell kind of lingers a little bit further than it normally would from our wastewater plant. So we've cleaned out the digester, and we're now at a place where we're actually pressure washing. Actually, the City of Columbia City, our city Facebook page, actually posted a video of the power washing of that. That is being done by a private contractor, but they are power washing the inside of that digester, and then we will have another company come in and line the digester, so to ensure that the gas or other things don't necessarily leach out of there. We don't think that that was happening. Maybe some gas, but not like the materials inside. And so we're lining it to make sure that it's going to be sealed and good for a long time. And then once that's taken care of, then we will put the die store cover back on and get it back up and working. The reason why, by the way, you have a little bit of smell is we're using one of our additional tanks to be the kind of digester tank for right now. So that's why there's some of that smell that kind of lingers in the air around that area. So it's not harmful, just it has a little bit of smelliness to it. So Blue River Trail South. So I'll give you an update there. That is our Next Level Trails grant that we got, and we are. I know I say this every time, but like we're really really close to being done. And so the things that we're kind of working on right now is there's like 4 crosswalks that still have to be lined, meaning that where it crosses the road, 4 crosswalks that still have to be painted, and I think basically just the removal of the detour signs and things to that effect. So we are like really really close. We're hoping that maybe next week, maybe when we're able to call it finished-ish. And the reason I say finished-ish is because we have the railroad crossing that still is unresolved. The railroad crossing, honestly, you can go across it pretty easy right now. We don't think there's going to be tremendous construction that's going to happen to get that railroad crossing where it needs to be, but we're still working with the railroad company to kind of get those things squared away. I will say at first, the original, let's say, the original discussion between us and the railroad was, for lack of better words, a little, it would have been a lot. It would have been a lot for us to do and would have been very expensive. And so we've been able to work with them to try to find a way to kind of push down on that cost and push down on the actual work that we're going to have to do. So that's, I think, good. But I don't anticipate that railroad work being done probably this year. It could, but I think it's going to end up next year. The pedestrian island is done. The handrails are done. So all of that stuff I think is a really positive thing. So hopefully the majority of the trail will be done by hopefully next week. So let's see. Next up, the former Whitley County Jail. We've talked about this a little bit in the past. I'll just kind of give you a little bit of update. It's really not much of an update, but as a reminder, if you've not watched this program for a while, or maybe you're just unclear of what's going on, we had intended the project to kind of go a certain way. We were thinking about doing kind of a police station with some entrepreneurship space for business, and then a back area for indoor playground. And that price came in extraordinarily higher than anybody here at the city thought would be. And again, I think it's just a testament to the way in which our economy is really kind of tough right now. It's everything is ridiculously expensive. If you've gone out and you've tried to buy anything, construct anything, then you know that it's a really harsh market. So, nevertheless, we wanted to do all those things. The county was gracious enough to give us that jail building, and then we came up with that price came up, and it just we're just not going to be able to do that. At the end of the day, we have two pressures. Number one is the number is so high, but number two, the tax value, which we'll talk about here in a moment with Senate Bill 1, has been changed, and so we actually have declined revenue this coming year, and we just have to be smart with the dollars. So that's one of the first projects I think I've actually said absolutely not to. So we are now pivoting, and our City Redevelopment Commission is preparing a request for proposal to look at kind of what private investment options are out there, what kind of public-private partnership options may be out there. So the project in totality is probably on the shelf. I won't say it's completely in the trash can, but I would say that it's probably more likely that something private will happen on that property rather than public. But we're going to work to try to make sure it's an asset to our downtown, an asset to our community. We know that property was given to us, but also was built with community dollars, and so we're going to be really, really thoughtful about how we do that and what we do and all those kind of things. We, at the end of the day, we know it's a main corner in our downtown, in the kind of downtown corridor, if you will, right on the courthouse square, and so we want to make sure that we do right, not only by county, who were so kind to dedicate it to us, but also do right by our citizens. So that's what I'll say. So Jeremy asked, police city communications will not be moving there either. That is correct, Jeremy, as of right now. Now, we have left the door open. Well, let me back up. Communications was never planning to move over there. Communications, meaning our dispatch center, was going to stay here. We actually, 2017 or 18, we invested a lot of money in our dispatch center, and so dispatch will remain here at City Hall. So that wouldn't have been moving, but we had talked about the idea of moving the police and police station over to the former jail. Right now, that doesn't appear that that's going to be the case, but with that being said, we are leaving the door open for, in that RFP, to say, you know, if you wanted us to basically be either we own a portion of the building, or we lease a portion of the building, or something for police station, it's well suited for that. So the door is not completely shut on the police being over there or not, but we'll see. We'll see what comes in with the request for proposal. So hopefully that was explanatory for you there, Jeremy. So more to come on that. Redevelopment Commission, of course, is always it's always live streamed on, well, now it's live streamed on YouTube and recorded and all that kind of stuff. So if you want to watch that, or we have minutes and stuff that are on our website at columbiacity.net. So, by the way, that goes for, I think, all of our boards and commissions. There is minutes and agendas and all that kind of stuff on our city website, columbiacity.net, and we have moved all but this program over to YouTube. So we live stream on YouTube now, and I think it actually is going pretty well. So I'd welcome your feedback if you've watched those on YouTube and you like that style or don't like that style, or there's things that you think are good or bad over there. I'd love to know that. We're still kind of newbies in the live streaming. We did Facebook for a little while, for a couple of years, and then now we've moved over to YouTube because of some of the policy changes at Facebook. So in any case, I'll leave it there. So that's the jail, or former jail, Eagle Park. So as you well know, the Eagle Park Phase 1A has been completed for a while. I know there's still some grass that's not growing in that area. That's going to be something we're going to probably consistently have to work on and get addressed, because the dirt and the soil and the stuff inside the soil there. Obviously, there was a school there, and so there's a lot of there's a lot of materials that are in there that maybe aren't the best for growing grass, like rock specifically, or clay. And so we'll be working on probably keeping grass there for an extended period of time, I'm guessing. So anyways, long story short, though, is, as we've noted in the past, and as I've said publicly and all that kind of stuff, we are working toward an amphitheater. The concept, or the conceptual design, we're hoping to unveil at the next city council meeting. So there's maybe a teaser, if you will, if you want to see what that looks like, get on YouTube and follow our City of Columbia City page, YouTube page, and then you can watch our city council meetings, which are always on the second and fourth Tuesdays of the month at 6 p.m. unless we change it. So for instance, we're going to have a Board of Works and City Council meeting at 5 and 6 on the day after Veterans Day, because our second Tuesday actually falls on Veterans Day. And since the city's closed that day, we bumped it to Wednesday. But again, we can talk about that later. But yes, have some comments in there. Nice to see the skate park being used. It is used all the time. Like it is probably one of the busiest youth areas in Columbia City on most weekends, outside of youth sports and things to that effect. I will say, although it is kind of a youth sport, however, I will say it's not just youth that are using it. We have lots of adults that are using it as well, and it seems to be really being well loved. Let's say it that way, well loved. So yeah, I'm really happy to see that result. So thanks, Rob, for your comment on that. Also at Eagle Park. Oh, let me back up one more thing. Sort of one more thing, two more things maybe. On the amphitheater. So it was erroneously reported in the Post and Mail that it's a downtown amphitheater. Obviously, it's not a downtown amphitheater. We're talking about it being at, in fact, it will be at Eagle Park. I think what the newspaper did accidentally was they mixed a downtown project, which we'll talk about maybe here in a moment, and the amphitheater project that we talked about close together. They mixed them together. The paper has noted that they will print a correction and a retraction, if you will. So appreciate the Post and Mail being willing to work with us in that. And so if you read that, or if you see that, or if you hear it, there is no downtown amphitheater being planned. It is only at Eagle Park Amphitheater. And so we are probably going to go what's called the BOT route, which is the build, operate, transfer. That is a different way of doing procurement or purchasing of or construction of. So hi everybody, thanks for tuning in. We got a couple of hellos in there. So the BOT route, build, operate, transfer, is basically a way in which we can utilize we can utilize a contractor to kind of streamline the process. Can utilize local firms for construction. Can basically give us a guaranteed maximum price, or a GMP. The guaranteed maximum price, unless we direct things to go over that amount, it is locked in. So if things go up and over that amount, the contractor, actually the company that we contract with, they actually have to effectively eat that cost. So there's an incentive for them to keep that price lower, first of all. And second of all, maybe more importantly, is that we can work with them to be a little bit more nimble on how what we do with the project. So along the way, if there's ways in which we can cut a little bit of cost here, but still have the same value, still have the same amenities, we can do that. It gives us a lot more flexibility. We've never done BOT before. We've typically done design, bid, build, which means we go to a contractor and they design it, and then we put that design out to bid, and contractors bid on it, and then they build it. But then a lot of times in that building process, they say, well, the engineer thought it could work that way, but we don't think it can work that way. And then we have a conflict, and then we have to do a change order, and guess who gets to pay the bill? You and me on the city's dime, right? So anyways, long story short is that we are working on that process. I think that'll actually go in front of county or city council here at the next meeting for their approval of the BOT process. So, and lastly on Eagle Park, and then I'll answer some of those questions for sure. And that is that the parking lot has been sealed and striped. If you've gone by it, you'll see it's a little bit darker and has a lot of clearer lines on it. We had to fix some of the catch basins on in the parking lot, and that's the parking lot between Eagle Park and the Aquatic Center. And so you'll see it's really, really nicely done. Thanks to Van Am Striping and Sealing for their work on that. They did that project. Again, another local contractor. We try our best to use as many local contractors as possible. And so they worked on that. So appreciate that. So got a couple of questions came in here. Josh says, are you and Chip cooking hot dogs this weekend anywhere? Thank you, Josh, for that. We are not. We are not. So if you went to Family Safety Festival, which, by the way, went really great, you know that Chip Hill, my community development director, and I spent time cooking hot dogs and giving them out and stuff for the Family Safety Festival. Great day, by the way. Thanks for everybody that came out, including Josh and Northeastern RAMC for coming out. We had a lot of great people, a lot of great organizations, and that came and taught safety things, which was really, really great. It also was the last Saturday of the farmers market, so we got to have some good cooperation there as well, and hopefully some of the businesses benefited from that also. Okay, another question. Oh, Jody says happy early birthday. Thank you, appreciate that. Yes, 41 is coming up on Monday, and so crazy to think I took this job at 27 and here we are at 41, but that's time, that's life, right? Time marches on. So thank you, Jody, that's very kind of you. So James says, are you not running for re-election? That's a good question, because this is a Mayor's thing, I will just tell you what I've been candid about telling people, and that is that obviously I'm in my fourth term. I'm the longest serving mayor in our history. And we have not made any final decisions on what the next election will look like. When that time comes, we'll certainly make the announcement that we want to make, either running for reelection or not running for reelection. I'm really thankful for the job I have, and that's probably the best I'm going to answer right now. But thanks for your question. Appreciate that. Greg says, can anyone do performances on the amphitheater once it's built? Like DJing or bands or things like that. So I guess the short answer I would have for you, Greg, is to say that we have some ideas of how the amphitheater will work. Okay, so if you tuned into the last council meeting, then you may or may not have known that, or may not have heard that we actually did change some job descriptions at the Parks Department. So what we used to have was an aquatics director that kind of oversaw all the things happening at the aquatic center, and that was really kind of their sole focus. So they would do aquatic center plus ice skating rink. Okay. What we came to find out is that really didn't need to be a full-time position. In fact, we have two assistant managers, we'll say, of the aquatic center that really handle most of the aquatic center stuff during the summer months, the kind of the ramp up, and then the management of staff and the management of the operations, and then the closing of the aquatic center. So what we've done is actually redid the job description. So that position has now been changed over to kind of a program coordinator position that can oversee not only some of the stuff happening with programs in general, whether it's sports programs or things like that, but can also do scheduling for the amphitheater. So the hope is that whether it's pickleball tournaments at Eagle Park or the amphitheater, or I mean, heck, we could even have a skate show or something like that at the skate park, but that we want to be doing more programs. And I know one of the things that Matt Hayden, our parks director, has done a really good job of doing is diversifying what kind of services we offer at the Parks Department. So one of those things is the Indiana Wild, where we effectively contract with that company to come in, and they bring some animals and they teach about wildlife, and education, things like that. So I'm going to get to your question, Greg, here in a moment, I promise. But the point is we're diversifying that what our park system offers to our residents, because I think in the past we've kind of gotten pigeonholed into it's the parks and sports department, not the parks and recreation. And recreation is pretty wide, so it's sports, it's hiking, it's wildlife stuff, it is activities for all ages, things like that. So I say all that to say, to get back to the answer, is that our hope is going to be that this amphitheater, because it's going to be a two-sided amphitheater, one side for larger concert things and one side for smaller events. That smaller side could easily be used potentially for outdoor weddings and things to that effect. So I say all that to say there will definitely be times where that facility will be open to the public to utilize in ways that obviously certainly doesn't do damage or anything like that to the facility, but is a place that is open to the public, that they can, if they want to bring their guitar and they want to sit on the edge of the stage and play it and their friends come and watch it, they can do that. They can do all kinds of different things. So I just say all that programmatically we haven't figured everything out. So I think the question about a permit or a fee from Q is we haven't figured that out yet. So my gut reaction, and this is just Ryan talking here, my gut reaction is the amphitheater will be a place that we will have set concerts, and there will be times and set events where you can kind of rent it out. So I would say in somewhat similar to what our outdoor pavilions are kind of like, right? So like you can do a reservation of those, and then it kind of is reserved for you, but when it's not being reserved, it can be utilized by the general public. So it's a balancing act we're going to have to do there. There will be times where we'll have our own concerts or our own musicals, our own plays, our own events happening there. And there'll be other times where there's not. And there'll be times where it'll be private, and it'll be sometimes it's not. So that's the best I can tell you that right now we're kind of considering. I don't have a final definite answer because we're just trying to get the thing built to start with, but that's the best I can give you, Greg. Sorry for the long answer, but hopefully that gives a little more um, perspective into what's going on there. So, James says you can even consider car and motorcycle shows. Absolutely, 100%. There's a lot of opportunity there. We could do lots of different things. So, Dean and Kelly, fingers crossed you run for another term. Thank you. Um, Appreciate that. Appreciate your very, very kind words. I enjoy what I do, and hopefully I make a little bit of difference each day for our residents and for our community's future. So thank you for that. When will the amphitheater be finished? Is that the next phase of Eagle Park? Answer is yes, that is the next phase of Eagle Park. Um, Tentatively, our timeline, this is very tentative, okay? Tentatively, our timeline appears like next year will be the beginning of construction, and hopefully, hopefully it will open sometime in summer of 2027. Okay, I think it'll be a little bit longer of a build time because we want to make the amphitheater something that is not what you can find elsewhere in northern Indiana. I've said from the beginning, Eagle Park needs to be a place that is set aside from every other place that people have been. That it needs to be a place that is unique to Columbia City. That it has that, let's say, Eagles touch because it was the site of the former Columbia City High School, and we've been really, really cognizant to think through how we honor the history and the memories and all the things that have gone in that piece of property. So that's my answer. My answer is we're hoping it'll be open by summer of 27. There's a lot of things that have to happen in a fairly short order in order to make that happen, but we're trying to move it along as quickly as we can in the right way. Okay. So Q asks, could it be free to local residents? I think there will be some things that will be free. I think there will be some things that, in order to have kind of I'm going to say this kind of respectfully, a higher level of entertainment. We may have to do some tickets and events like that. I mean, ultimately, what I'd love to do is I'd love to have there be concert series where, we get sponsorships or things like that happen throughout the summer months. But I could envision, or I guess in my heart of hearts, I'd love to see Columbia City host a national act that we could actually sell tickets, and it could be a really kind of a big deal for our community as a tourist or as an attraction, if you will. Again, not every weekend, probably not even every month, but having something that would be an attraction to Columbia City. Fill up the hotels, have them eat at restaurants, have them enjoy time here, but also give our residents an opportunity to see national acts as well. So that's could be pie in the sky. It could be something that's out there, but you probably can hear a little bit of where my heart is for this thing and where we could go. So the goal would be that it's free, that the majority of it is free to local residents, or at the very least is something where we get sponsorships or things like that. So will the entertainment stage for Old Settlers Days be on the amphitheater, or will it continue to be held downtown? I would imagine, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do the big I would imagine that entertainment will remain downtown for Old Settlers Days. Keep in mind, Old Settlers is separate from the city. So I can't imagine the entertainment moving down there because that would kind of be away from Old Settlers Festival, but I don't know that. So will there be a noise ordinance at the Eagle Park? Good question. There is certain noise ordinances in general in the city. So here's how I look at it. I'm going to be probably a little more blunt than I probably should be, but I'm just going to be this way. So because that's kind of how I think, and that is that for 60 years we had a high school there that hosted all kinds of outdoor activities. I actually live in the neighborhood that's near there. I lived on one side of the lake, actually nearest to the high school, and then we moved to the other side of the lake, and so we live on the other side, so we don't hear as much from that area, but I can still hear activities happening at that facility or at that park. So there was, of course, high school football on Friday nights. There was soccer happening. There was track. There was all kinds of things happening there that obviously generated a fair amount of noise for an extended period of time. Obviously, that's that's what was there, and now we have the park space and the potential amphitheater there. Certainly, we're going to try to put in mechanisms, trees, other things that will dampen the sound, and our goal is never to disrupt the neighborhood. But I would be remiss if I said that there wasn't going to be some noise from those concerts. Certainly, the goal will be that we incorporate ways, like I said, to block some of that sound from neighbors. But we will do our best to try to accommodate people. But as for, I mean, there is, like I said, there is a noise ordinance, and so to a certain extent, we will follow that. Um, I think there is some provision for us to actually be outside of that, but we'll figure that out. So that's a really bad answer to your question, Q, but hopefully that answers the question. So I know you might not know this, but what year do you think Eagle Park will be 100% complete? Gregory, Eagle Park won't be completed. You know what? I'm gonna take a tack. You guys, a lot of you know this if you've tuned in for a long time. You know that I'm a big Disney guy, and what Walt Disney said about Disney World or the Magic Kingdom is, or the parks in general, is that it will never be complete because you will always have updates. You will always have new things coming in and out. So my hope, I guess, will be that Eagle Park is never completed in that same vein, that we will always be thinking about what our residents need, responding to the needs of our community and to our residents and to individuals, things like that. But if we were to do the whole plan right now, I think we're probably looking at somewhere around $75 million, which none of us have. I can't even take a year's budget. I mean, it would take, what, 8 or 9 years of our total tax budget for 70 some $million. So I think we're just going to do this piece by piece. And overall, the goal of Eagle Park is that we will have lots of different amenities for lots of different populations in our community. So I don't have a date. There's no way I could tell you when it would be completed, but we're going to keep doing piece by piece as long as I'm here, and hopefully, whoever comes after me and after them and after them. So it'd be nice if Morse's Park and Eagle Park were connected. Great point, Rob. I will say that is ultimately the goal. The goal is that we would connect Morse's Park and Eagle Park through some kind of a bridge and road situation where we would have that connectivity. You could actually walk back and forth and certainly drive back and forth. We have general ideas of where that would go or could go and how they could be connected. So I would say that that is something that's in the plans. I just would say it's probably not in the next 5 years. It could be in the next 10 to 15 years. Again, as we do piece by piece, because honestly, at this point, with a bridge going across the Blue River, going through wetland area, and going through the wooded area, I mean, you're talking that road probably by itself is $1.5 million minimum. So that should tell you where prices are. So hopefully that's the best answers I have, or I can give you right now. I can tell by your questions there's a lot of excitement about it, which makes my heart happy because it tells me that we're maybe generally on the right direction. So that's Eagle Park right now. So thank you for indulging me in so many questions on that. Okay. By the way, if you have more questions of anything, just go ahead and pop it in there. I'm happy to try to answer them the best I can. So next is probably the hottest topic, at least on some certain Facebook pages, and that is about city water. And so I will try my best to answer the situation the best I can. So I want to set a picture first, okay? Because I think I've talked about pieces of this, but not in totality. So I'm going to try to do that real quick. The city water system has wells around certain locations in the city. We pump water from underground lakes called aquifers. That water is pumped up, taken to our water treatment plant. It goes through a series of multiple filters. We try to take out as much of the impurities of that water. We have to, by law, treat it with something and then take that out, which means we treat it with chlorine gas, and then we take that chlorine gas out of the water as best as we can. I take that back. That's at the wastewater plant. I'm sorry. We do treat it with chlorine gas, and that basically treats it to make it clean, if you will. We do not add, I don't think we really add anything actually to the water. I know that there is some segments out there that think that we add fluoride to our water. We do not do that. We have a lot of naturally occurring fluoride that is in our water. That is true, but we do not add fluoride to our water. So once that water then is cleaned, if you will, it is then pumped out into the system. Now, there's two main things I want to take care. Thank you, James. Appreciate that. There's two main things I want to address here. First is the water coming in from the wells, and then second is the pipes that's being pumped through. Okay, so for water coming out of the wells, I mentioned in our Fast Five video about a month ago, not the latest one, but the one before that, that we found the issue for the discolored water, or at least a portion of it. I should have been clear about that. But basically there was a filter in one of the wells that was broken. So we pump water up, it goes through a filter and then goes to the plant and goes through more filters, okay? Well, that filter and one of the pumps was broken. So the problem with that in the well is that it sucks other things up out of that aquifer, okay? Typically, the filter will block things like sand and debris and things like that from being pumped up out of the water. Yes, surprise, in a lake, in an underground lake, there is water, or there is rock, and there is sand, and there is things like that. Surprise, okay? So, when we pump it out and the filter was bad, that means that we were pumping some of that stuff to our plant, right? Well, not only that, but it was causing some of that friction along the pipes that went to our plant, and it was causing some friction inside of those filters. Now, at the end of the day, that water was 100% safe to drink. It has always been. We test it every single day. But nevertheless, what happened is some of that friction created some of that browner water, because in the water are minerals. Again, surprise, underground water has minerals in it. So, and by the way, I'm not trying to be sarcastic. It's more of just saying there's a lot of things that people don't know about the water that they're drinking, and so I'm trying to be as clear as I can be about that. So there are minerals in our water that are naturally occurring minerals, typically things like iron and manganese and other things like that that are in our water, that are in the aquifer. And so when we pump it out, we try to take as much of that out as we can. We have to obviously meet minimum state standards that we have been meeting. And so we pump that through the filters, and then that is from the filters, it then goes out to the public, right? So we take as much of that stuff out at the plant as we can. Typically it's filtered at the well and then also at the plant. Well, if the well is not being filtered, then it's creating issues at the plant where it's becoming more of a problem. So here's the other piece. Once it's cleaned at the plant, it goes into water lines that go through every street and feeds your house and feeds the businesses and feeds our hospital and feeds our parks and feeds all that kind of stuff, right? Feeds my house, City Hall, etc. So the challenge is when you have friction and other issues at the plant, or you have things happening in the system where there are different layers of flow, there's different levels of flow. So instead of hard flow, there's soft flow, or maybe it's intermittent flow. So you have a little bit and then it kind of pushes off and then it goes again. When that happens, some of the minerals still left in the water. Let me back up. So as water's going through the pipes, some of the minerals that are in that water will attach itself to the actual pipe. Okay? If you've ever, I'm trying to even think about, if you've ever had a pipe at home and that they have had things coming through it, water or other things coming through it, if you take it out and you look at it, there's usually some kind of buildup in that. So same thing happens with our water pipes. As water's going through there, some of the minerals will attach themselves to the actual water lines that are going through our community. So what happens is when you have some of that pressure change that's happening in our system because of the well issue and because of some of the other stuff happening there with the plant, etc., as I've already talked about, then it creates an uneven flow going through the pipe. Well, when there's uneven flow going through the pipe, it allows some of those minerals to break off. If those minerals are iron, specifically, you will have orange water. Okay? So, I just went through a scenario of 5 minutes talking about this. So, and I have not done a good job of doing that in those fast five because they're fast, so I can't really explain that. But ultimately, what we've been doing is number one is we fixed the filter, turned off the well, and until we get the pieces to that well in order to fix it, that well is going to remain down. So we've taken care of that part. We've also then last or this week and maybe even next week we are flushing hydrants. So again, that unevenness going on in our system should push a lot of those additional minerals that were stuck should release them and be pushing them out with those flushings. Now, does it fix everything? No, it doesn't fix everything, and I can't necessarily promise that you will never have brown water again and ever have orange water again, okay? We try our best to provide the best kind of water we can for the prices that we have, okay? Interestingly, there are lots of other communities around the state of Indiana that's having that same issue right now. And so there is a belief that maybe the drought may have an issue, maybe a culprit because the aquifers in the water or aquifers in the ground, as we talked about earlier, are down. So that means the suction capacity is a little bit different and it changes the frequency of the water, if you will. So you may have noticed Cherubusco has also had some brown water issues recently and things like that. So I tried to simplify it in my Fast Five. I probably didn't do a good job of explaining the whole process. Hopefully all 30 viewers that are watching now and anybody in the YouTube community that watches us later will now be a little bit more educated of why sometimes there's brown water. So that's the best I can tell you right now. Again, we're trying to get those parts to get the well fixed so then it could create more consistency in water and all that kind of stuff. But hopefully you will see a lot less brown water that's out there. Now, I'm going to say one last thing about this because I'm going to try to be really respectful. So please hear my heart when I say this and not just maybe what I'm saying. And that is, if you have issues, please give us a chance to fix them before you blast us on Facebook, okay? It's really, really easy to say, look at how the city is, look at how the city is not treating me nicely. I was going to use a different word, but look at how the city is not treating me nicely or whatever. I would just respectfully ask that you give us a call at our city utilities if you have issues there. Give me a call if there's issues happening. I will try my best to work on it. We are all public servants, and while sometimes public servants get a really bad rap from people, I will tell you, I know our guys, they care deeply about this. They care deeply about providing good water to you or good electricity or good wastewater lines or things like that, public safety, etc. So give us a chance, okay? That's all I'd ask. I'll get off my soapbox now. So we did have a question. What are the current barriers facing the North Street extension to Morsh's Park? Okay. I think what you're talking about is the extension from basically Eagle Park over to Morsh's Park. I sort of talked about that earlier. If I'm thinking right, Alan. So if I'm misunderstanding your words, let me know, and I'm happy to address those in a different way. But effectively, it's twofold. It's number one, it's money, and number two, there's a little wetland area there as well as wooded area that will definitely create problems and barriers to get across there. It does not mean that we don't want to do it. We do want to do it, and there will be a time in the future that I'm sure it will be done. However, we've kind of tried to focus on doing Eagle Park in phases. And so we've started with phase 1A. We're going to do phase 1B, which is amphitheater and maybe some of the more of those swings and some stuff like that. And again, we're kind of trying to move west to east. So as we do that, to be fair to Chris, a river is a part of that. That is true. But I think I would just say in general, Alan, the issue really has to do with monetarily and from a phasing standpoint, moving west to east. It's a little bit further down the road. So hopefully that's a good answer for you, or at least an answer to your question. So I am super behind because of the well, and by the way, thanks for all your questions. This has been great. So I appreciate that. So a couple of things real quick. Again, thanks for people coming out to the Family Safety Festival. Congratulations to the Haunted Jail for being named the 5th best haunt in all of the nation. That's so cool. Congratulations to all of them over at the haunted jail. They do such a good job of haunting people and being an attractant for Columbia City. Um, I recognize there's lots of opinions about the property and all that kind of stuff, but it's really, really cool to have a nationally ranked attraction in our downtown. I think that's a really, really cool thing. I do want to note the passing of our county commissioner, Chad Banks. Chad obviously had a passion for Columbia City, and specifically, more specifically for Whitley County. And I think there were a lot of times where Chad and I maybe didn't necessarily always see eye to eye, but we worked pretty well together. We worked on the jail project together. We've worked on, actually, there's 2 or 3 projects we were working on together at his passing, and so I appreciate his partnership. He will certainly be missed, and our prayers obviously continue for comfort and healing, if there is such a thing as healing after death, to his family. I also want to note that Jenny Middleton, our Southeast District City Councilwoman, has decided to step down. She is moving out of the city. She has a different place she's moving, and just better for her family, and I wish her the best on that. She'll be here, I think, until, I think officially it's like December 1st is her resignation date. But I say all that to say she's been a great asset for Columbia City. She has represented the Southeast District for, 1.5 terms now, I think. She took over for Nicole Penrod, who had served it for, I think, 3 terms. So, and she's done a great job. She's on lots of committees and is very, very engaged. And so I hate losing her, but I know that she'll do a really, she's doing what's best for her family, and I'm really proud of her for choosing that. The reason I bring those 2 things up, more maybe in more context, is I want to just really quickly talk about the process of replacing those 2 individuals. Because I think a lot of people don't know how that process works. So, number one, process of replacing Jenny Middleton is that there are 2 precinct committeemen, both of the Republican Party, because Jenny is a Republican, so the Republican Party gets to replace that individual. So there are 2 precinct committeemen within that city council district. So those 2 individuals will get to vote on who will be the next city council member representing the Southeast District. The same is generally true for the county commissioners, because now, but meaning that Republican precinct committeemen who are elected by Republican voters, those precinct committeemen get to vote for who will be the new commissioner. Now, because the county commissioner is elected by the entirety of Whitley County, that means that all the precinct committeemen of Whitley County will get to vote for the new county commissioner there. That is supposed to happen a week from this coming Monday. I think it's in Larwell, if I remember correctly, at their fire station. And so if you're wondering how a county commissioner, how that county commissioner position will get refilled, or how the city council position will get refilled, it is called a caucus, where those precinct committeemen will get to vote on who they think should replace that individual. Individuals have, I think, up to 72 hours, I think, prior to the caucus to put their name on the ballot, if you will. So that will be happening, like I said, a week from this coming Monday, and that will be, I think, both caucuses will be held at the Larwell Fire Station. Just in case you're wondering how that happens, obviously, it's never fun to replace someone who has passed. By any means, and especially Chad and his kind of his huge impact that he's had, as well as Jenny and the big impact that she's had, although not passing, but still, both of them are going to be hard to replace for sure. So that's the process. I did see a couple of questions come in real quick. Can you force the property owner of KFC to fix his driveway? Officially speaking, I'm not sure that we can. However, I'm happy to send another letter to them to say, hey, listen, we're getting lots of complaints about it, which is true, and see if we can push the issue a little bit more. In some ways, the problem is if you look at where the KFC drive is, in front of their property there, it actually the majority of people are not utilizing that drive in order to get into KFC. They're using that drive to get into Taco Bell, which is, kind of stinks for him, if you will. But in any case, yeah, I'm happy to write a letter. I'll make a note of that right now. KFC. So I'll see what I can do to push the issue. The last time they paved it, I had sent a letter, so maybe we'll be able to push a little bit more. So, Ryan, is the water issue resolved? Says Seth. I'm gonna say close. If you just tuned in, back up just about 10 or 15, maybe 15 minutes. I talk a lot about the well issue. So generally speaking, I'm going to say it's not resolved completely, but a lot of the issues that we were having with it should be at least somewhat resolved. So we're working on it. Is a short version of what I had previously said, but I would encourage you to go back about 10 or 15 minutes in this broadcast and just hear me out on the well situation or the water situation. Okay? Thank you, Seth. Two last things in miscellaneous before I talk about the budget. So this lunch with the mayor is definitely going to go over an hour. Number one, limb pickup is next week. It's the week of October 6th. So next week is limb pickup. If you have limbs that you need to get out, again, keep in mind the regulations of that, but get those out to the curb line. That is really, really important. Get those out by Monday morning. You cannot put them out later and expect it to get picked up, so please do that. So we've also had questions about leaf pickup. We cannot do leaf pickup until we finish limb pickup. So leaf pickup is scheduled to begin October 20th. So you can get your leaves out between now and then. You got plenty of time here. I recognize the leaves are coming down a little earlier this year because of the drought situation that we have right now. But I will tell you that we do have leaf pickup scheduled for October 20th, okay, or the week of October 20th. So typically we have two crews. They go around and they do the whole thing. So that's that, okay. Chris says KFC and Taco Bell are all owned by Yum Brands. That is true, although they're probably not the property owners for the CC locations. I think that is true. I know that Yum Brands are not the property owners of those CC locations. I'll also say that there are different franchisees for both of those, I believe. Okay, so, but you're right, they are both Yum Brands. Pretty sure, yes, pretty sure they're both Yum Brands. Okay, budget items. Okay, so, oh my goodness, I'm gonna try to really truncate this. So, obviously, I've talked about in the past, Senate Bill 1 put a huge budget crunch on us, not just now, but into the future. And so, that legislative session that was finished earlier this year has really kind of created some challenges for us to provide more things to our residents, okay? Also keep in mind that there are lots of different tax dollars that come from different sources and for different purposes. So while we do have property tax dollars that are a part of it, we also get some income tax dollars, and we also get some food and beverage, obviously food and beverage tax that we've passed. We also get some gas tax dollars. We also get some cigarette tax dollars. We also get some gambling tax dollars. So I say that to say there are diverse sources of revenue that come in for different purposes. So while we may be able to, let's say, build an amphitheater at Eagle Park because that is on food and beverage tax dollars, we may not be able to do something for our public safety because those from that same source, because those are two different sources we can't use that for. We are statutorily mandated by the state to use food and beverage tax dollars for those park purposes, for Eagle Park specifically. I cannot use that for funding a new police car or a new fire engine. I can't do that. They're two separate sources. I can't use gas tax dollars to fund our park system. I can only use gas tax dollars to fund our street department or street activities. So totality-wise, we have multiple sources. It's kind of like figuring out, if I got two puzzle pieces, I got to figure out first what puzzle it belongs to and then try to fit it into the right the right spot on the puzzle. Okay, that's hopefully that's a decent example. I don't know. Anyways, long story short is I think this year we're looking, or this coming year, 2026, we're looking at a couple $100,000 worth of loss. So I think somewhere in the $200,000 um, loss to our budget. And of course, we have material cost increases as well. So we got a couple of those factors that are working against us. Um, so just to be real blunt and honest, my staff know this already. I am not proposing any staff wage increases this year. I've been mayor for 14 years. There's only been one other year that I have not proposed some increases for our staff. Our staff are probably one of our biggest assets. Obviously, probably is our biggest asset that we have. And so you know it's kind of a tough environment when I'm not able to do that. So we're looking at other ways in which to kind of show our staff how much we appreciate them, but I just can't financially make the increases work for next year's 2026 budget. We also are not adding any new positions. Now as with the Parks Department, as I mentioned earlier, we changed the job description. So we basically took a position that was there and reworked it. So it's not a new position, it's a new job description. But we're not adding any additional staff in. We will fill positions that are there, but we're not going to add any more staff, if that makes sense. So that's kind of the basis for what we're working on. Again, I could go off about how assessments are the issue, not the tax rate. Again, ninth lowest tax rate of cities in the state of Indiana. Here in Columbia City, ninth lowest. But still, long story short is just to say that is a pressure that we're feeling is that kind of situation. So there's a couple things that just came in. I want to make sure I'm Mackenzie. Okay. I'm just seeing if there's anything else. I'm going to say maybe contract. Yeah, okay. I got you. I appreciate. Thank you, Christopher, on that. Well, whoever owns it, don't give two craps. Okay. So Scott, I totally understand your frustration regarding that road for KFC, Taco Bell road, if you will. I understand your frustration. I'll do everything I can to push it. Just understand I don't know that I have a ton of authority to say you have to do this kind of a thing, which is is what it is. Private drive, not city road, things like that. So, okay. So back to the budget. Couple things that we are going to be funding. We are going to fund preliminary engineering report for a downtown project. That's where I think Post and Mail kind of got two things mixed up together. The plan is we're going to do a downtown revitalization project potentially in 2027. Again, a lot of things have to align to make that happen. But nevertheless, the goal is from basically Main Street to Line Street on Van Buren and north and south one block on Chauncey is to address the infrastructure of that area. So we're talking roads, curbs, sidewalks, lamp posts, all the underground infrastructure, which would be water line, sewer line, stormwater line, electrical, etc. Aesthetics, meaning the look and feel of some of those things. Obviously, safety. I anticipate that we are probably going to take out. This is probably breaking news. We are probably going to be taking out the light at the intersection of Chauncey Street and Van Buren Street and making that a four-way stop. Just for your information, we are kind of leaning that way right now. But nevertheless, in totality, we are looking at a preliminary engineering report so that we can then go after grant dollars to hopefully be able to do the downtown project. So again, tentatively scheduled for 27. Certainly, once we get more information and really get that project squared away and figure out exactly how it's going to work and how we can phase it to make sure that we support our downtown businesses and still support the activities, but be able to really redo downtown. If you've walked our downtown streets, especially Van Buren Street, you'll know that it needs a lot of love. It has a lot of crack seal on it, and it has places that's been dug up for infrastructure purposes, and so we need to work on it. We need to address it, and it's been 30 some years since we actually did a downtown revitalization project. So that's kind of the goal of the direction we're heading. But we have to have the preliminary engineering done so we can at least start applying for some of these grants and things like that. So that's that. Let's see. We do anticipate getting our new fire truck in next year. That fire truck is going to cost us, guessing, $1.3 million. That's a guess with all the equipment. We will not be paying for that in cash. We will definitely be doing a lease, some kind of a lease or lease purchase program, probably lease purchase program. So that is sort of kind of in the budget because every 10 years we rotate fire trucks. So for instance, if we had fire truck A and B, or let's say 101 and 102, which is what we do with our fire engines. The ladder truck is a little different. That's 107. That's kind of a little bit different. But 101 and 102 are our two engines. So 101 is the engine where we, or the, not the engine, I'm sorry. Well, yeah, it is. It's the engine that we most recently purchased 10 years ago. Okay? So when this new fire engine comes in, that 101 will become 102, and then the new one will become 101. And so then we'll use 101 and 102 for the next 10 years, which means every fire truck gets used for basically a 20-year life cycle, which is about what most of the equipment is rated. We don't try to change them out any earlier than we have to. So we have 101 and 102, and we process those through after 10 years. One goes down, one moves to the second spot, a new one gets in, and so every truck utilizes 20 years. I made that extraordinarily more complicated than it needed to be, but nevertheless, 20-year time frame basically. And we're not sure what we're going to do with the current 102. We've talked about maybe preserving it or utilizing it as maybe a third engine that we could maybe use at another facility or something later. We're not 100% sure what to do with that, but we do anticipate the new fire truck potentially coming in next year. So there'll certainly be a cost for the lease purchase of that. We are going to also be replacing one of the compressors in the fire department. It's a compressor that just continues to go bad. Keep throwing good money at bad problems, if you will. So we're going to replace that. We also have the Westgate Phase 3, which is the west end of Westgate, scheduled for 2026 to occur. We are applying for the Community Crossings Grant Matching Program, which is through the Department of Transportation, the Indiana Department of Transportation. I think those applications go out or come in, or I guess are submitted, I'll say, at the end of this month, beginning of next month, if I remember right. So if we get that grant, our plan is to do Westgate Phase 3, which is the final phase of Westgate. That will be, again, streets, curbs, sidewalks, etc. So that will take, obviously, some significant resources. Dog park is planned for construction to begin, as we've talked about in the past. Dog park at Morshes Park is planned to begin construction this fall and go into next year. We had originally budgeted about $100,000 for the dog park, and because dogs like to jump fences, and they have to be pretty solid fences, the fencing itself is like $80,000. So we have now kind of put aside a little bit more money in next year's budget to help supplement the dog park to make it what it really needs to be. So that's just a couple of things. Obviously, we're going to continue to try to replace 2 police cars every year. We're going to try to, ensure that, they have the vest that they need and that our firefighters have up-to-date equipment and all that kind of stuff. We're going to do all the basic minimum stuff that we have to do. Some of the things I just listed are some of the, maybe, I won't say fun, but maybe the bigger projects that you would probably notice. Everything else is general status quo, but we've even had to kind of figure out how to maintain status quo with some of the significant dollars being cut. So that's kind of in a nutshell my budget thing. I kind of truncated it, but hopefully it's helpful. So Gene says, I know leaf pickup doesn't begin until October 20th, but some people have piles of leaves out already. Will they be picked up before the 20th? I see piles on sidewalks and some into streets. Good question, Gene. So Kelly and street superintendent Kelly Searball and I have had some conversations. Again, the biggest issue is we have to get limb pickup done, and then we have to grind those limbs, and then we have to, well, we grind them sort of in the process, but sometimes we have to go and bring them back to the shop, and then we have to grind them. It just depends, but we have to do that. Then we have to transition our equipment from limb pickup to leaf pickup. And then obviously we have other projects we're also working on right now, so we're trying to figure that schedule out right now. Obviously, we had said from the beginning, the week of October 20th is the start of leaf pickup. We may do it earlier than that, but I just can't promise that. So I understand it's a little bit of a hassle. This too will pass, but I will say, to Gene's point, that I want to encourage you for leaf pickup. Make sure that you please don't put them on the sidewalk. Put them, if you have a curb face sidewalk, meaning you have street, curb, sidewalk, okay? Please make sure that your leaves are behind the sidewalk and not on the sidewalk or not in the street, okay? Second, if you don't have a curb face sidewalk, if you have sidewalk, space, curb, street, try to put them in the space between the sidewalk and the curb if you can, if there's room there. Not into the street. Understand that leaves are going to fall. There's still possibility of them plugging our stormwater grates, but the less leaves that are in the streets, the less our stormwater grates get plugged, and the less flooding opportunity we have, things to that effect. So that's so my suggestion is, please, if you're going to put leaves out, which we welcome you to do that, just try to keep them out of the street and off the sidewalk if at all possible. Also keep in mind, we take those leaves and in the spring we mulch them up, and they become leaf mulch for anybody who wants to put them in their gardens or do those kind of things. So again, we try to recycle those and utilize that in a really positive way. Okay. So so now I'm going to transition to calendar, and I'm 7 minutes late already. Transition to calendar. If you have additional questions, I will get to those at the end of the calendar, and we will try to wrap this up fairly quickly. Tonight, First Friday in downtown Columbia City, they're going to host an additional movie, kind of a special movie, if you will, which is Hocus Pocus. Great movie, by the way. So Hocus Pocus, it's going to be on the south side of the courthouse this time, which hopefully will be maybe a little bit better. I think we've worked it out, so maybe not all the lights along the street will be turned off this year. So for First Friday in September, when we had the movie on the square, we had lights around the square had to be turned off, and so there was some movement. Point of the matter is, the screen will be on the south side of the courthouse square. I think we got the lights situation taken care of and stuff. So if you're not going to the home football game, maybe senior night, maybe not. Anyways, if you're not going to the home football game, if you're not going to the mother-son Halloween Carnival, which is happening, our Parks Department is putting on at the 4-H Center from 6 to 9 p.m. Tickets are required, so if you don't have your tickets, I'm sorry, you are out of luck because we are sold out. But nevertheless, Mother-Son Halloween Carnival is going on from 6 to 9. So if you're not going to the football game and you're not going to the Halloween Carnival, come downtown to First Friday and stick around for the Hocus Pocus movie as well. Tomorrow, there is a Safe Bodies, Safe Community Self-Defense class that is free to the public. It's from 12 to 3 p.m. at Peabody Public Library. That is put on as a part of Domestic Violence Awareness Month. I posted something yesterday, or the day before, on my Mayor Ryan Daniel Facebook page about my proclamation about it being Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Yes, that's true, Scott. You can do both. That's true. I apologize. Let me go back. If you want to go to First Friday and go to the football game, you can actually do both if you want that, yes. If you want to do First Friday and the Mother-Son Halloween Carnival, that may be a little more challenging because they're at the same time, but yes, you certainly could do both. Thank you for the correction, Scott. So anyways, Domestic Violence Awareness Month, that is something where we do honor those individuals who have came out of domestic violence. Ooh, man, it got really dark here. Excuse me. I don't have my lights on because I don't like my lights. So anyways, There is a lot of stuff happening in Domestic Violence Awareness Month. If you know individuals who have been impacted by domestic violence, I would really encourage you to help them get the support they need. There's lots of services and agencies that are out there willing to help. Okay. Next up is the Whitley County 4-H Autumn Harvest Festival. That is from 9 to 3 p.m. 9 a.m. I'm sorry, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the 4-H Center. That's kind of become an annual thing, which is really great. We are tentatively planning a ribbon cutting for the Blue River Trail extension, what I talked about earlier, roughly 2 p.m. on the 14th of October. The hope is that we can do it maybe on the bridge, the new pedestrian bridge that we have. Again, we're still working out some details. We have to get DNR, DNR, Indiana Department of Natural Resources approval because they did the grant, and we got to work some things out. But that's kind of where we're tentatively planning. Also, that night of the 14th, we have Board of Works and City Council happening at 5 and 6 o'clock, respectively, here at City Hall. The 15th through the 17th of October is fall break for Whitley County Consolidated Schools. If you did not know that, you now know that. Let's see what else. 17th of October is Columbia City Connects Ladies Night Out shopping event from 5 to 9 p.m. here in downtown Columbia City. The 18th of October is Kelly's Skeleton Festival in downtown Columbia City from 2 to 7 p.m. I will be judging golf carts, so don't get mad if you have a golf cart and you've decorated it and you don't win. I'm sure you put a lot of effort into it. Great job. I'm proud of you. 10:25, Loon Lake has their trick-or-treat event at 3 p.m. 10:28, Taste and Tunes Woodlands Senior Center fundraiser. So that is that's a fundraiser for, like I said, the Senior Center, and it's at 6 p.m. Board of Works City Council again on 10:28 as well. 10:31, Halloween night. We have Little Pumpkins on Parade trick-or-treat happening in downtown Columbia City from 3 to 5 p.m. That's, I guess, put on by the Chamber of Commerce and Visitor Center. And 10:31 also, Halloween night, is trick-or-treat in Columbia City. So we are diverting from previous, or let's say past precedent, which is on Saturday nights. We are going to do it this year on Halloween night. So on 10:31 from 5 to 8 p.m., Columbia City is hosting our citywide trick-or-treat. Okay? I would invite you to come by North Shore Court. We'd love to see you at our house for trick-or-treating. Then 11/1, the next day on that Saturday, Columbia City Connect is having a holiday open house in downtown Columbia City from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Our next lunch with the mayor, mark your calendars for 11/7, November 7th. Our next lunch with the mayor, I believe we're going to try to have a special guest there for that, where we'll do our normal interview thing. So I'm excited for that one. So mark your calendar for noon on 11/7 for the next lunch with the mayor. 11/8, Veterans Marathon, Half Marathon and Heroes 5K is in downtown Columbia City. It's normal route, if you will. Here comes the sun again, so it's going to get bright again. There we go. Veterans Day is on the 11th, as I mentioned previously. City Hall is going to be closed, obviously, on Veterans Day, but we have moved the City Council and Board of Works meetings to the Wednesday after Veterans Day instead of the day it was supposed to be on, the second Tuesday of the month. So it's now on Wednesday, the day after Veterans Day. 11/22, 22nd of November, there is Yuletide Treasures Bazaar at CCHS. That's for, I think, the show choirs, maybe fine arts, I'm not sure. 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Columbia City High School. Shop Small Business Saturday is the 29th. It is always the Saturday after Thanksgiving. So, as always, I want to encourage you, shop local. If you can find things locally, then shop local and support those businesses that support our community. 11/28 through 11/29 is Walk of Trees at the Clugston. And I think there's another date in December. I only went through November, so at the next one, I'll have a longer list of events happening. But nevertheless, that is the calendar of events I have here. I do have a couple comments. Love the Blue River Trail. What a great asset for our city. 100% agree with you, Don. We love the Blue River Trail as well. Thanks for your support of that. Alan says, enjoyed your top 5 video information and projects going on in between the lunches with the mayor. Thank you for that. That is something completely and wholly at the thought and idea of my assistant. So thanks, Ashley, for her hard work on those top five or those fast five videos. We do try to do them a little bit in the middle of each of the Lunch with the Mayors, so a little splash of, hey, here's an update, really quick update you can watch, and so glad you enjoy that. So with that, I have finally, only 15 minutes late, reached the end of my agenda. Thank you all for tuning in today. I'm really proud of everything happening in the city. Yes, there's issues going on that we continue to try to address. And again, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier, which is if you have issues, if you find that there's issues that you don't understand or don't know about or want to have an answer for, please contact our office. Please contact City Utilities if it's a utility issue. Please give us an opportunity to try to answer and respond to the questions that you have. That helps us all have a great working relationship together. I know it's really easy to go down the negative path. I know it is. Trust me, I have that at times too, especially when it comes to sports. That's my Achilles heel, probably more than anything else. But nevertheless, I do want to encourage you, try to give us the benefit of the doubt. Let us try to answer things. And then at the end, if you disagree with our answer, then you can be mad at me or mad at us or whatever. That's fine. It comes with the territory. But thank you, everybody, so much. Next year, try to have fall start. Jeremy wants us to try to have fall start a little earlier next year in Columbia City. If I had the ability to change the weather, I would get both the benefits and the drawbacks of being able to control the weather. So I have nothing to do with that. But I appreciate that very much, and I know you mean that jokingly. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I hope you have a wonderful October. Enjoy this fall season. It tends to be shorter and shorter every year, but I'm excited for the leaves falling and for apple cider, and for bonfires and hoodie weather and all that kind of stuff. As you may know, fall is my favorite season of the year. And so I'm so happy. I know it's supposed to be 80 something, but I still had to wear my sweater vest today. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in. So thankful to have you as a part of our community. Have a wonderful October and a great fall. We'll see you back on November 7th. Take care. Bye-bye.